Hey everyone, welcome back to another SAT math video. This question is from the official practice test 5 from 2024, linked in the description below so you can follow along. A rectangle is inscribed in a circle such that each vertex of the rectangle lies on the circumference of the circle. The diagonal of the rectangle is twice the length of the shortest side of the rectangle. The area of the rectangle is 1089 root 3 square units. What is the length in units of the diameter of the circle? Okay, so first things first, like we always do, let's figure out what concept do we need. And the concept we need is, you might have guessed it, geometry, right? Because they are talking about circles, squares, shapes, anything like that. That is geometry. And whenever we have geometry, what do? We draw it out, right? So let me move the screen over a little bit and we are going to draw it all out, right? So what do we need to do, right? Well, let's just read the question. A rectangle is inscribed in a circle. So that means we have some circle and that circle has a center, and then we have a rectangle within it. And how is it inscribed? It is inscribed such that each vertex of the rectangle lies on the circumference. What does vertex mean? Vertex just means like a point when the sides change, right? Like, so if we have like a diamond, right, this would be the vertex, this would be the vertex. Anytime when two sides touch, that is a vertex, right? So what they're saying is each corner of our rectangle is touching the circumference. So that's not a super accurate picture, but you get the idea. The diagonal on the rectangle is twice the length of the shortest side. So we have some length x, right, on the shortest side, and the diagonal, right, so this is going to be a little tricky, not super straight, but that's okay. So this diagonal, let's call that the diagonal is twice the length of the shortest side. So if our shortest side is x, then our diagonal will be what? 2x, okay? The area of the rectangle is 1089 root 3 square units. What is the length in units of the diameter of the circle? Well, this is a crazy question, but if you know the patterns of the SAT and you know what fundamental concepts they test you on, this one is going to be a piece of cake, right? So area of the rectangle is 1089 root 3 square units, right? And we just basically, we know x, but can we find the width? We'll just call that y, right? And what does this look like? Oh my gosh, we have some sort of triangle maybe, right? Because rectangles have 90 degrees on each corner, right? So what do we have? We have like an x, a 2x, right? What is this one got to be? Well, if you remember at the beginning of your SAT booklet, there is what is called a reference sheet, and the reference sheet has something called special right triangles, right? Because we have an x, 2x, and what is this one going to be? Well, if you look at your reference sheet, you might see a triangle that looks like this, and it will have some degrees, right? This will be our 60 degree, right? This will be our 30 degree, and then this would be our 90 degree, right? So then this side length has to be x root 3, right? You really just have to make sure that you caught that, right? You have to catch that there's an x here and then x, 2x right here. That should immediately set off an alarm bell saying, this is maybe a right triangle, right? So now we know that y is simply x root 3, right? And they give us the area, so we can now use that to our advantage. Real quick, if you did not know immediately that this was going to be a special right triangle, here was another hint. They showed us a root 3. Root 3 should always, almost always, whenever you see a root 3, you should think to yourself, is this root 3 somehow related to a special right triangle? And the great thing about special right triangles is you can see this all in the SAT, right? They literally give you this information. You just have to read and make sure to refer back to the beginning of the section. Enough of that. Let's try and finish this problem, right? So we know that area of the rectangle is equal to 1089 root 3. So we can rewrite that as 1089 root 3 is equal to x times x root 3. Okay. Now we will then have an x squared root 3 is equal to 1089 root 3. Cancel that out, right? We can just, I basically just divided both sides by root 3. So then we are left with x squared is going to be equal to 1089, and we got to square root that. Okay, so that's going to be annoying. We could most likely use our calculators, but I'm going to pretend I forgot my calculator at home, so I'm going to do it without one. So we know that we have to square root both sides, so x is equal to the square root of 1089, right? So what do we do now? Well, we can now, we know easily, right? The diameter is just going to be 2x, right? So let's just solve for the diameter, right? Because we know that 2x is going to be x times 2. So let's just say what is, then they're asking us for the diameter anyways, right? And how do I know the diameter is 2x? Well, this diagonal, it touches this point of the circumference. It goes all the way across and touches this point of the circumference. So that means that it is a diameter, right? So let's just try and solve for 2x, right? So 2x is going to equal 2 times the square root of 1089. Still, we need to mess around with this 1089 stuff. So let me do some long division on the side over here because I'm very stubborn. I don't like to use calculators if I can avoid it. That looks like square root. There we go. So let's just try and figure out what the heck goes into 1089. I'm just going to guess 9 because it ends in 9. Probably 9 or 3. So 9 goes into 10 one time. 9, 10. We get 1 left over. Bring down the 8. 9 times 2 is 18. Oh, look at that. It becomes 0 and then 121. So we are basically left with a square root of 9 times 121 square rooted all times 2. That really wasn't that hard, right? And now we know that that's going to be equal to 2x, the square root of 9. That's going to pop out a 3, and square root of 121. Well, that's just going to be an 11. So we know that 2x is going to be 2 times 3 times 11, which is the same thing as 6 times 11, which is going to be 66 units. There you go. So why did I do 2x? Again, remember, they're asking us for the diameter, and we know that our diameter is basically the diagonal of our inscribed rectangle. So there you have it. That's all you really needed to do for this one. What did we do? We first recognized the concept. This is a geometry question, so we drew it out. Then we drew out our information, right? Was inscribed within a circle means this rectangle is inside the circle. If all the vertices touch the circumference, that means all the corners of the rectangle touch the circle. And then from there we just kept on drawing everything out. After we drew everything out, we had to recognize that 2x and x would give us a special right triangle, right? Or you could also see this root 3 and think to yourself, maybe there's a special right triangle here. And then we just solved for x. Once we kind of knew what x was, we then solved for 2x, and that gave us our answer of 66. So there you have it for this video. Let me know in the comments if I did anything unclear or was too fast. Don't feel discouraged if this question was not immediately understood by you. It always just takes practice. You keep on doing the questions over and over again and you will succeed. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.